While Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin may speak frankly about the incident involving them and Austin Dillon on the final lap of the race this past week, Dillon informed a small group of media at Michigan International Speedway that he is limited in what he can say until the appeal is resolved. And this has brought a huge turn to the whole case. Why can the two of the three affected talk about it? And why is one silenced? Is this a plan from NASCAR? Let's look at what Dillon had to say about being silenced. "I want to get through the appeal process, and then I will gladly give you my point of view and my side of the story as best I can," Dillon said to a small group of reporters. At Richmond, Dillon dominated much of the race and had the lead until a yellow was issued for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wrecking Ryan Preece on the final lap. On the restart, Dillon, who was in 32nd position and needed a win to make the playoffs, lost the lead and dive-bombed turn 4 on the race's last lap. He knocked Logano out of the way before turning down the track to escape the spinning number 22 car. At that time, he went into Hamlin's number 11 Toyota as it came up the track, and he was moving down, resulting in a hook that sent Hamlin into the wall. Dillon continued on to win. On Wednesday, NASCAR stripped Dillon of the spoils of his victory but retaining the trophy. He said that he was happy overall since he had won the race, and while he couldn't say much about the penalty that deprived him of the rewards of his victory in Richmond, he did say he offered some of his thoughts on ESPN's Marty and McGee podcast. "With that appeal, obviously, we deserve to be in the playoffs and want to reverse that NASCAR has made to take our playoff eligibility away, and we feel like we have a case to stand on and should," he stated at the time. And stated that he would be delighted to return once the appeal process was completed. Dillon said that he is used to controversy because of his family's racing heritage, and he knows his grandfather, Richard Childress, would not back down. Dillon stated on the broadcast that he wasn't too worried with what others were saying about him. "It's something he's fought with for the most of his life, and his religion and love for family help him overcome other perceptions." However, he feels that some of those outside viewpoints influenced how NASCAR ruled on the Richmond event, and that this will be addressed during the appeal. "When you talk about opinions, we have been in the sport for as long as anyone," Dillon said. "NASCAR forever. You look at the landscape of it, decisions were made by NASCAR. And now, with the new landscape at least, what we heard was industry stakeholders' opinions were taken into account this past week. It is interesting for sure because, for us, we were awaiting a decision that came out on Wednesday. It is a different dynamic now, so we have to do a very good job. We have to look to RCR, all of our partners, to do a very good job in this appeal process, and that is what we will do." Because NASCAR analyzes everything spoken by a driver and team during an appeal, Dillon has very limited options in his defense. He noted that he was not angry and still had the Richmond trophy, so his attention was on the Firekeepers Casino 400, the appeal, and then Daytona and Darlington, the final regular season cutoff event before the playoffs. He also stated that he is confident in his prospects of winning the appeal and that RCR has been compiling evidence for his defense, but did not elaborate on what that meant. He even stated that he learned a lot about the appeals process from Hamlin's Actions Detrimental podcast. I feel pretty good about it," Dillon said. "I think Denny Hamlin has a podcast about the appeal process. He lays it out pretty well on how the appeal usually works. I think that is why he was pretty forthcoming early in the week on his opinion of everything. The appeal process isn't easy, but we will do a good job on our side to try and cover all of our bases and see what the outcome really is. I respect Denny, his tactfulness and his brain when it comes to competition and how he portrays himself. He does a very good job in his gamesmanship. I have nothing but respect for Denny. I think he plays the game well, and this is a game. This is a sport. I have to do the same thing right now with my approach to everything that is going, so right now, we are in the middle of the thick of it for that process." So what did Denny have to say? And what could he even say, as according to Dillon, everything can be used against you? Denny Hamlin feels. NASCAR drew the line for aggressive racing with the penalty handed down to Austin Dillon during this past Sunday's race in Richmond. Dillon, who purposely wrecked Hamlin and Joey Logano on the final lap to grab the checkered flag, lost his automatic playoff place and was fined 25 points. All week, Hamlin begged NASCAR to explain what is over the line, and it appears he received the answer he was seeking. I think that, I feel like I saw something that I've never seen before last week," Hamlin said. "And we saw an unprecedented penalty. But when you see something unprecedented, you sometimes have to respond in an unprecedented manner. So I believe so. I think that hard racing is still okay. Think if two cars are battling side by side and one of them hits the wall because of the close racing, I think that that's going to be deemed okay. Think if you come from a long ways back, you are not going to win the race until you decided to wreck someone. I think that is a clear line in the sand. Dillon has challenged the punishment, which will be heard on Wednesday. In the hours following the race, Hamlin questioned what the proverbial line was and how much NASCAR was prepared to overlook. While Hamlin has some clarity, he says that sometimes balls and strikes are not totally clear. In the future, while judging what crossed the line in translation, we may have to look at each situation individually. But sometimes, balls and strikes are not totally clear. Sometimes there's one right on the edge and you have to call it, Hamlin said. But it's up to us to make the decision. Do we want to put ourselves in that gray area where it could be called one way or another? You just have to live with the result. I think if NASCAR polices potential wrecks for the win going forward, there's going to be some close calls. But you put yourself in that spot. So you're going to have to live with the result and the ruling on it. Joey Logano also spoke out about Austin Dillon's punishment a week after getting wrecked in overtime on the final lap of the Richmond race. Drivers appear unconcerned with the punishment, despite the fact that the verdict is unprecedented. That is, everyone who is not affiliated with Richard Childress Racing. Well, obviously, I think it's clear as day what happened, Logano said. When you go into the corner, he wasn't able to get to me, throttled up more to get to me, and then turned left to hook Denny. At that point, NASCAR's forced to make a decision, and if you let that go, you gotta think about what it does for the integrity of our sport moving forward in the next 10 races, right? The win and in mechanism in NASCAR creates difficult situations. It encourages drivers to go above and beyond what they would normally do. The importance of winning races generates drama. However, drivers still have a decision to make. This season has had two of the closest finishes in NASCAR history. Nobody sought to ruin anyone to win. That is a decision, as Joey Logano noted in his comments. The playoffs, the final 10 races, there's going to be do or die moments. That's what Austin said. He did it because he didn't have a choice, Logano went on to say. Well, we're all not going to have a choice here at some point in the next 10 races. And if that's okay, then it's just really going to change everything. And I don't think that's what the fans want to see or part of that, and I know I don't want to be part of that either. So I'm glad NASCAR made the decision to do what they did. I think it's right. As far as what happened after the race, I get to watch that replay again there too. Obviously, I made a mistake there by driving down pit road. I mean, they told me to go forward up there, but probably not at the rate of speed I was. Not good for anybody. Definitely the most expensive turns 3 and 4 I've ever had in my career. So, we're ready to make up for that today. Joey Logano has a right to be angry. He got crashed on the final lap. So of course, he is pleased with this decision. He still has an excellent argument to make. And this also goes for Denny Hamlin. But it's weird NASCAR wants to silence Austin Dillon in this case. What do you think? Is it fair that NASCAR might use anything a driver says, effectively silencing the drivers in question? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.